Oh, I see they've got the notification up there too. So it works for us, but it doesn't work for other people apparently.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, yeah, so we're live and we're back with another live stream, and we are super excited to have C-Milk and Winston with us.
Yeah, how's it going, guys? Nice to see all of you over there.
Hello to everyone in the Hapa sphere.
Yeah.
What's happening today?
What's happening today? I got that one this time.
Yeah, we were watching the your 23andMe video, and then you did the whole happening joke at the end. So that was
I remember that. That was a fun vid. I enjoyed that.
Yep.
Yeah, you guys learned a lot from that. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah. Have you guys done any DNA tests?
No, but I want to do it sometime because it should be pretty interesting for both of us.
Yeah.
So.
They're pretty conservative, like with what they tell you are, but then there's so many private projects that can go further, like into where you're from, based on your geographical DNA and stuff. So I've been learning a lot more and kind of pinpointing stuff, but even just the basic test is super fun.
Yeah, mine keeps changing all the time. They keep sending me updates.
Yeah.
And my map is like Lego or something. Or
it's not like
a rainbow. It's just so many colors.
It's not like they make a mistake or something, but they can pinpoint stuff the more data they get. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
All right. So yeah, we have a few questions for you, especially since I know C-Milk has a kid, but I don't think you don't have a child yet, right, Winston, or no?
Not at the moment.
Yeah, not at the moment. Okay. I don't know. For some reason, I was convinced you did, but
I was like, no, he doesn't. I'm right.
Yeah, so.
We're working on it. We're working on it. One of these days. Yeah.
But yeah. So I guess you can chime in as well. But I guess since C-Milk, you already have a kid, you have another one on the way. So how is it like raising a half Asian kid in China? How's that working out?
Well, for the first bit, it was kind of like a novelty. Like everyone's like, holy shit, this guy is a white guy, but he married a Chinese girl, and they see this baby, and they're like, of course, every newborn is like hideous. Like there's no such thing as like a good looking newborn baby. But of course, the stereotype in China is that half babies are like super, super beautiful and pretty and cute and whatever. So that's all you hear everywhere. It's like, oh my God, your baby is so adorable. It's going to be a supermodel when it grows up, you know, blah, 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 this kind of stuff. In terms of like whether she's accepted or not, if you're trying to get into that, she's too young. So like within the family, she's treated as a Chinese person. On the street, I would say the average person would look at her like as a specialty, a genetic specialty, right? But they would still treat her like a Chinese person. They would say, 她是我们中国的, she's our Chinese, she's like from our Chinese blood. When it goes into the school era, I haven't entered that, and I don't plan on raising my kids in China for schooling reasons. But I've seen mixed kids go to school, and they do get special preferential treatment from the teachers.
Yeah.
But they do tend to run into some issues with their peers, not necessarily in a negative way. No. They can either be incredibly popular or kind of like the weirdo, basically.
Yeah, they're usually very popular.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. We've got a bunch of friends that have, Hapa children, and they seem to really get a huge amount of attention from all the parents and all the children. And it can actually be a bit overwhelming because I also think it's pretty bad for their development, because they probably grow up with this massive ego because everyone keeps telling them that they're special and pretty and
they get modeling gigs and stuff even as children, right? So everyone's telling them this. Now, from my personal perspective, though, it's like when my kid, I bring her back to America, when people see her, they say, oh, your kid's really cute, but it's never mentioned that she's half Chinese or half white, or she's cute for that specific reason, right? It's never talked about. So I would say it's very much on the surface. People definitely talk about it. It's the first thing they say in China. Yeah. And in America, hun shui, like mixed blood. And in America, nobody mentions it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how, like, growing up here, I feel like it's not, I guess maybe it's not as special.
Yeah.
I don't know. So.
It makes sense. I mean, people mix all the time, right? West. So I feel like it's definitely, it's the first generation that's ever done that in China, and it's 0.00001% of people that do it.
Yeah.
Whereas in the West, it's happened for quite a long time, even though it's a fairly recent phenomenon in terms of modern history, but there's definitely a lot more history in race mixing.
People are also a lot more polite in America when it comes to, they don't want to get too personal with people. So they don't kind of say, oh, you look you look half this or half that. They'll say, hey, you're very pretty or something, or they won't go into it.
Whereas in China, like not about mixed race or anything, but they'll come up to you whether you're white, black, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Or Chinese, and they'll say, you're really fat. Your nose is massive. You know, that's the first thing
they just pointed you on the street. Hey, foreigner, foreigner. You know, like the kids say that, and so they're very direct, and so that's why I think it comes up in conversations, because they're basically saying, hey, your kid's half mix, you know, half breed. You know, look at that, it's pretty because half breeds are smart and pretty.
Right. It's like that massive stereotype, right? It's actually funny because like a lot of foreigners or Westerners can get like a pretty big superiority complex, I feel like. But at the same time, if you speak Chinese, you'll hear just as many people saying like pretty rude things too. So like I remember I was in the lift once and I was going up to my floor, and they obviously just assume that I don't speak Chinese. And the woman turns to her husband and she goes, I thought foreigners were supposed to be handsome. And I was like, thank you very much in Chinese. And they weren't even embarrassed. They actually weren't embarrassed because you just say that off the top of your head. At the same time, you hear people say, oh, they are handsome because they're white, right? That's like a talking point in China.
They're probably more amazed that you could speak Chinese to them. Like, oh my God, holy shit.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted them to have a holy shit moment, but they're just like, yeah, whatever. Like,
it
wasn't offensive. Yeah.
So how do you have you approached your child and like being half Asian? Like, does she ever?
Wait, how old is she first?
Oh, yeah.
She's 2 years and 8 months.
Oh, okay, so that might be a little early to do that.
But how is life being half Asian?
It's actually interesting that you brought that up, though, because like we have had conversations not about race, but about the languages that we speak, right? So when she speaks English to me, she knows that she's speaking English, and I'll say, what you just said, how do you say that in Chinese? And she'll say, it's Chinese. And actually, weirdly enough, we have not taught her any distinction whatsoever. But when we're reading a book, even if it's an English book, if she sees an Asian-looking kid in the book, she'll point and say Chinese, and she'll point at the white person. She'll say English, which is kind of fun. We haven't taught her that distinction, right? But I think she's made linguistically a differentiation between speaking Chinese to her mother, who obviously looks Chinese and who's white. So it's kind of interesting how early they can make those distinctions.
Yeah, that is interesting.
No, ask a question this time.
Okay.
We can switch.
Okay. Well, this is more of your question though, because
you want to ask that?
Yeah, because that's your thing.
All right. So I was I was actually reading through some blogs or whatever, and one question that came up that was actually pretty interesting was how your parents raised you, and how if any of that has kind of gone over with your how you're raising your kids now or going to raise your kids. So has any of that happened or anything that your parents have done that you wish they had done differently or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, like I was the first kid, right? So you're gonna make all the mistakes of the first kid. That's just how it goes. I feel like they didn't make any massive glaring errors. I think I had a really good childhood, but just thinking back, I feel like they punished behavior, some other things that maybe they shouldn't have slide. Probably just because they're testing the waters. Whereas I see them raise my brothers, and my brothers are quite young. I think there's 18 or 19-year difference between me and my youngest brother. So. Oh, wow. They kind of know what they're doing now, and my brother is on the straight and narrow. He's a good kid. He doesn't do anything wrong, and I feel like they have a more well-adjusted approach at parenting now. They know when to not, throw him in his room for no reason, and they know when to let him play video games and stuff like that. Whereas with me, it was kind of like, is he supposed to be doing that? Throw him in his room, ground him for 6 months, and then sometimes they're like, come home at 3 a.m. in high school, and they're like, oh, whatever. So. I feel like maybe a more well-rounded and a more balanced approach would have been good. And I hope I'm doing that with my daughter. The difference is I feel like my parents had, at least in middle school and high school era time, had a lot more time to spend with me. My dad is always there, taking me out mountain biking and swimming and all that kind of stuff, kayaking. And great relationship with my dad and my mom. Whereas I'm working a lot. And Olivia does see me every day, of course. But I wish I had more time with her for sure. I feel like that's something I'm going to have to work on giving to her. But I would say, to answer your question very simply, I think a lot of my parents' parenting methods carry over to the way that I raise my child as well.
That's good. Well, it's good that you have a good relationship with your parents because
sometimes it goes bad.
Yeah, not all of them are lucky, especially the first kid, because they're probably happy they're not some drug addict or on the street. So
right. Well, it's
success.
Yeah.
I could have been a drug addict on the street. I'd make a great one.
I wouldn't have hung out with you then.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have met each other. Yeah. You could have been one too.
No, I doubt it.
Neither. By the same logic.
I'd buy you a beer though.
Thank you.
I do that. I do that for those guys, you know.
Yeah, Winston, when we see like tweakers and stuff, he'll buy him a beer.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
Oh, how sweet.
Everyone needs a beer, you know.
Like, quit the meth. Take up alcoholism.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Replace one habit with another.
It's more illegal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Nowadays.
So the other question I wanted to ask is there any like weird customs, like when you have when the woman is pregnant in China and then she has a baby, are there any like weird customs?
Maybe you can, I'll tell my story. You tell the cultural aspect of it.
Well, they've got this thing called 坐月子, which basically means, well, first of all, especially down where we live in China, it's Guangdong. It's a lot more traditional than, you know, some other parts of China, but the whole of China pretty much practices this kind of thing. So first of all, there's all sorts of weird soups and concoctions and weird stuff that the mother is supposed to basically be force-fed before she gives birth. But the weirdest thing is after she gives birth, she's not allowed to wash her hair or take a shower for like a month. And she has to stay in like wrapped up in blankets indoors and not allowed to move around and stuff for a month. Yeah. It's the most disgusting thing, and it's so bad. How can it be hygienic? I just don't get it. But a lot of the families kind of insist that this happens. Yeah, you know? And you actually do get cases where women die of heat stroke. It has happened. Yeah,
because they won't turn on AC or open windows. And
not a lot of AC.
Guangdong is freaking 100 degrees in the summer.
Just don't give birth during summer.
You gotta plan. Yeah. Now, the reason behind this, actually, first I'll say this. What my wife had to go through was every day, and I'm not kidding, every day I'd go to where she stayed, which was with her mother, and she'd be locked in this room, basically. And she'd be wrapped up in the blankets, right? And I'd go out to the porch, and there'd be 2 live chickens running around. And this is not a farmhouse. This is like a high-end apartment on the 19th floor.
I saw them.
You saw the chickens, right?
I saw them.
They're in some of my older videos. I did that Daily Milk series or whatever. And I kind of made friends with some of the chickens, and then we had to eat them. So she had that. They would kill and prepare 1 chicken every day for an entire month, a whole month, every day. Okay, and the whole family would eat it, but Vivi would have to eat the most of it. And they'd cook it in kind of a cooking alcohol, like a rice wine. It'd burn off all the alcohol, obviously, but it'd be cooked in that. And you're not allowed to use salt or sugar or any seasonings or anything. And it's so vile. Yeah, because it's boiled rice alcohol chicken.
It's right, like baijiu.
Yeah, except it's boiled in alcohol, right? And it's just awful.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So she had to eat that every day. She wasn't allowed to shower or bathe, but she was allowed to kind of pour on her body, not on her head, mind you, like a bucket of leaves, like leaf water that would like sit there and kind of like soak the leaf essence. Yeah, which was even worse than not showering. I just wanted to hose her off, dude. I seriously wanted to hose her off. So what we do is that when her mom would leave, I would sneak her into the shower and I'd help her wash her hair and stuff. And then we'd jack up the AC, just chill out, and it's awesome. She doesn't believe any of this shit, right?
Sure.
And the reason it's so culturally prevalent, it's actually in Taiwan, it's in Hong Kong, and it's in a lot of Asian cultures, is because the infant mortality rate was so high in the past that a lot of superstitions are born out of dire, circumstances. So they thought that the best thing that you can do after you lose all that blood is eat a ton of food, a lot of protein, and get all those nutrients back and keep really safe. Like if she's exposed to the elements and stuff back when there's snowstorms outside,
like get an infection,
all that kind of stuff. So they'd close them off from the rest of the outside world because they didn't believe in germs or anything, but obviously they knew what the effect was. Right? So that carried over till today. And if you go to a place like Taiwan or something, it's much more relaxed, and they have delicious food that they can eat, and it's like there's kind of medical science behind it. Yeah. Whereas in Guangdong, it's just ape shit, crazy like superstition.
I know, it's awful.
So yeah, it's not nice.
Yeah.
That was more crazy than I expected.
Yeah. I'm making sure that when my wife gives birth, none of that crap.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that's probably why you've taken so long, because you don't want to deal with any of that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
True. Good luck convincing her that she's not supposed to do it.
I'm kind of lucky because my parents-in-law live like in a completely different city, but Seamok's parents-in-law live in the same city that he does.
Right.
So they're literally like next door. They can just pop over whenever to
like 10 minutes down the road
and harass them, because that's what Chinese parents-in-laws do, is they harass you constantly. They don't leave you alone. Because they want to move in with you when you have the kid.
Right.
They're supposed to move in with you and live with you for
A year,
like,
up to a year.
Actually, the rest of their life.
Well, yeah, that's the ultimate old
that's what they way, what they want.
But it's usually up to a year, right?
That's one of the biggest problems with these kind of cross-cultural relationships is the parents-in-law, because as Westerners, we're used to our independence. Our parents expect us to move out of the house when we're 18 or whenever we can, right? Then they don't bother us, and they do their own thing, and we can visit them, and they can visit us, and whatever. But in Chinese culture, you never escape from the family, and they want to move in with you, and you have to look after them, and you're supposed to support them. You know what's weird though is that I have something to say about this. The Asian American friends that I have, have never had this issue. They're just as much friends with the white family as they are with the Chinese family. And even though there's cultural differences, the other family has experienced life in the West enough to understand that there are differences, right? So whereas you have someone like my family that's very like, oh, is it okay if, is Vivi going to be able to do this? They're very like adept and culturally sensitive there. I'm like, relax, it's my wife, just relax. Whereas her family is more like, deal with it, right? This is our China. It doesn't believe that you should be friends with your child. You're not supposed to have a friendly relationship with your child. So that culture kind of clashes. It can be a bit overbearing because especially Chinese, traditional Chinese people, they believe that it's their way or the highway. And they don't have any wiggle room. Right. They believe you must do it the Chinese way, and that's it. Right. But they don't seem to understand that it's a half Chinese, half Western child. Right. And they keep saying, your Westerners' bodies are different from our Chinese bodies. Right. Even when they're talking about the child, it's half. Right. So they say, they'll say something like, oh, their intestines are shorter, so don't feed her so much meat, things like that. I'm like, oh, for God's sakes. Like, I tried to explain to my mother-in-law and father-in-law, if you need a kidney, I'll give you my kidney. And they're like, no, that doesn't work. I'm like,
don't want your white kidney? Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, it's funny. I want to just finish that off by saying that any sort of problem that we've ever had has been because of parents-in-law issues, because our wives have been super cool and super understanding of everything. And we've also had a tit-for-tat thing. We've kind of understood their culture and kind of borrowed into that as well.
Sure. It's give and take. Yeah. But with the parents-in-laws, for them, it's just take, no give. So that's a bit annoying. Yeah. I do find that the Western parents-in-law, or my parents, your parents, they're willing to give a lot. Yeah. Because they're more understanding.
It's culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like the difference between, I guess, Western and Asian culture.
Yeah.
So this question kind of ties into what you just talked about, but do you feel pressured as a foreigner to conform to the Chinese standards since you kind of married into a Chinese family and you're living in China?
Well, not kind of. They did marry into the Chinese.
But I mean, like, they're not living with the parents, I assume. So.
Okay. Well, I mean, I've got a bit of a different case. I really put my foot down with that stuff because I respect my parents-in-law because, they are my wife's parents. I did the whole tea ceremony thing. When you get married, you have to make them drink tea and say, like, I will, I went through all that kind of stuff. I did the whole wedding banquet where, I had to pay for a big banquet for all the family and extended family to come and eat and everything. I did all of that stuff, but as far as the things like them moving in and all that kind of thing, no. I was just like, no, that's not going to happen. And before I got married, I made my wife understand that, and my parents-in-law understand that we're going to respect each other's cultures here, and there's a line that I won't cross. And that is, you don't come and live in my house, but at the same time, I will still be respectful to you, etc., etc. I'll look after your daughter, all that kind of stuff, make sure she's fine. So I was lucky that I could draw that line.
Right. Yeah. It's fairly similar, but I was much more accepting in the beginning because I thought there would be a little bit more give and take with my new family. I think I was a little bit more open-minded about that.
Sure.
So when we first got married, we were allowed to live in her father's second house, which was kind of given to us. And I was like, this is a sweet deal,
Yeah.
Then they started showing up every day, and I'm like, I'm out. That was it. And I had to go buy my own apartment.
I remember like coming to visit you, and your father-in-law walks out of one of the rooms in his pajamas, and he's just like ambling around.
And at first you're like, okay, and then you're like, this is happening every day,
Yeah, and your mother-in-law throwing the ice out of the fridge.
Right, she'd go in there and dump all the ice out because she didn't want the ice in the house because maybe Vivi would eat it.
Yeah, because ice is bad for your health.
Ice is bad for you, and I'll kill you. Long story short, I put up with a lot more.
That's why I'm having so much ice.
Yeah, he's like binging on ice right now. Long story short, I put up with a lot in the beginning, and I think I'm a little bit more tolerant to that kind of stuff. At the same time, I have this like on or off switch where I can get really, really annoyed and pissed off. So I try to make sure that line is never crossed.
Does that sometimes affect your relationship, or have you kind of balanced that out?
Now, like I said, the only issue, I don't think me and Vivi have ever argued over anything except maybe what we're having for dinner that night.
Sure.
Unless it's related to her parents. I'm not even joking. And the funny thing is, she's not arguing in favor for their traditional values. She's arguing because they're putting so much pressure on her. And then she's like, well, we have to do this. I don't want to do this, right? I would say my wife shares, and this, I think this goes for a lot of people 30 and under in China right now, do not share 1 ounce of cultural values with their parents. That generation is very, very, very different to the kids growing up now. So they clash, and then it comes into, you know, relationship conversations that we have. Yeah. Nothing ever serious, but, you know, when we have a tiff, it's usually related to, you know, traditional cultural Chinese values.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat because, you know, my wife's a little bit older than Simok's wife, but only by...
She's about my age, yeah.
By what, like 2-3 years or something?
Yeah. Well, my wife's my age too. She's 1984, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a year and a half, 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, they're almost the same. They're also from a Guangdong family, right. So it's actually a Cantonese, almost the same kind of setup.
Same setup, yeah.
Yeah, I have similar issues as well.
I see your mother-in-law doing a lot of the same things that my mother-in-law does.
Yes, and it's really annoying.
Yeah.
It's really annoying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have similar issues as well. If it's an argument, it's usually something to do with that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? It gets a lot worse when you have a kid. I haven't had a kid yet, so I don't know what's going to happen.
That's definitely, honestly, it was kind of okay before that. And then it just got like, wow, you need to like leave, and you need to let my wife and I raise our child, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's where your focus is supposed to be as your child.
Right.
You know, their health.
For them, it's just the next in the lineage, right? It's not.
You also have to understand that in the traditional Chinese sort of setup, the mother-in-law, the grandparents take care and raise the child. It's not the parents, because basically you have the kid, then the grandparents move in and they clean it, they feed it, they bring it up, they take it to school, they bring it back from school. They do everything, and the only thing the parents do is kind of go out and earn a living and bring money into the house.
And they come home and they say, "Hey, how's school?" You know,
yeah, that's it. But the children actually treat the grandparents as their parents.
Right.
And it's an unfortunate thing because you get this old mindset getting passed on to the newest generation. You know, so a lot of the bad habits and things that you wouldn't want.
Especially in the younger years. And then when they find out that they don't want to be like their grandparents and they have nothing in common, it's when they're really naughty and they like kind of act out, basically. So it's a weird cluster F kind of situation.
So yeah, you have to be in a situation where you can actually break that chain and be like, you know what, this is actually my child. I want to raise this child. You're going to be the grandparents. You can visit the child. You can, you know, spend time with the child, etc. But you're not raising it.
And a lot of the times when I talk to Chinese people about this issue, like all the questions you guys have asked have been excellent. And when I talk to them about this, they can't separate the fact that I'm talking about a cultural values, not a race, right? I've tried to explain to them. They're like, but your wife is Chinese. And I'm like, yeah, she's Chinese, but she understands me and I understand her. We grew up in different places, but we're smart enough to be able to learn from each other and talk to each other. We share common language, you know, but they can never separate the fact that, oh, they are Chinese, so race means culture, right? So it's a really frustrating topic sometimes.
Yeah, it can be.
I wanted to ask about our Hapas.
Oh.
And
yeah, go for it.
Your lovely relationship with that Reddit group, because we've gotten it too. And
I'm sure they gotten it way worse.
Yeah, I'm sure they've gotten it way worse. But so, like, do you guys ever hear anything from them, like directly, or
they've said that they're going to somehow hire a private investigator and find out where I am so they can kill me, murder me, shoot me. A guy said he's going to stab me first and then he's going to drag me to the curb and then curb stomp me because I am perpetuating a cultural phenomenon that destroyed his life. So it's his personal goal to go out there and destroy me. All kinds of stuff like that. I personally don't go on there to read it, but I will get subscribers to send me stuff all the time. Most of the times it's hilariously funny, like really funny out of context stuff where it's like he hates his mixed race daughter. Check out this evidence from this video or something. And it's satire. They take it seriously, and I just want to send them like an autism awareness link, because it's like, you guys miss the joke. You know, you can't use this as evidence for something. But I don't interact with them. I think I've probably had a few drinks like a year or two ago.
We're gonna take a look at them.
And you know, maybe I sent a little cheeky reply or something.
So the only reason why you're with your Chinese wives is because you're fetishizing them. Is that right?
Obviously.
Right. That's what they say.
That's what they say.
Yeah. I mean, I've never once, I don't know about you, I've never once considered dating an Asian girl, because I like Asian women. I've never dated an Asian woman before.
I've always been fascinated with Asian culture.
Right.
And, you know, of course, when I was younger, Japan and China, and then I ended up living in China. And it wasn't a preference of mine to choose a Chinese wife. It's just because I was living in China. Right. So what are you going to do? You got 1.4 billion people all around you, and none of them are white or black or brown or anything else. They're all Chinese. I don't have much choice.
Right.
Okay. But I'm not complaining, because you get lots of very pretty, gorgeous Chinese women. So
hey, there you go. There you go, fetishizing them. Come on now.
Yeah, well, I mean, you get lots of pretty gorgeous white girls too. I mean, I've had white girlfriends before, you know. So it's I
think we've only had white girlfriends before.
Yeah, actually, that's true.
But if I could go back in time and not marry my loving wife that we have a very good relationship with, I would go back and put an end to that, because of our Hapas. They really taught me a lot. Shout out to you guys.
Yeah, no, look, they have this little club, you know, and they keep trying to go after us and cause us grief, but it's futile. It's absolute nonsense.
I feel super bad. I feel super bad for them, because I have nothing to do with their issue. But
I want to help them out. I want to give them, you know, tell them to be proud of themselves, because, you know, I'm like a weird mix of, I don't even know what. I mean, I'm white. I know I'm white, but I mean, I'm kind of yeah. Apparently, I've got some Asian in me, according to the 23andMe. I'm a little bit Asian.
A little black.
I got 1% black.
Oh, you got more than that.
Well,
Wakanda forever.
So yeah, exactly. I got everything. I got
Malay, and I got
Malaysian. A little bit of.
That's pretty random.
To be fair, you look white.
Yeah, I'm white, but I'm a big mix of stuff. But it's not about your racial identity. It's got to be about you as a person, you know?
Sure. I guess their argument would be, is because you look 100% white, then you can walk around this earth, you know, with that kind of, without a chip on your shoulder, right? Because nobody's judging you or whatever. But
the thing is, like, the half Asian people that I know and that I've met have all been absolutely awesome people.
That's what makes me wonder if their narrative is flawed in any way. If there's just a collection of very broken people, because all my entire life, my half Asian friends, half Vietnamese, half Korean, half Chinese, were popular and totally fine and cool.
We talked about this last time, didn't we? It's not about that. It's just the fact that they are losers, and they're trying to find something to blame for the fact that they're losers. It's like, if you're massively overweight, you can blame like your metabolism or something, you know, or if you're just, I don't know, dropping out of school all the time, you can blame your parents that didn't,
or learning disability,
you know,
or something.
There's always something you can find, right?
Right.
If you can't get a girlfriend, you can blame society or whatever. There's always something that people blame.
And the internet brings them together.
Yeah, why not just look at yourself? Say, look, why can I say it? It's not because I'm half Asian. It's not because I'm South African. It's not because I'm too tall or too short or too fat. You got to look at what it is, and you got to focus on that and say, it's me. I'm the problem. I got to fix that, you know, and then you can overcome it. But it's so much easier to blame someone else or something else and to blame your parents or whatever. That's what every teenager does anyway, right?
Sure.
So that's what it is. The
Blame Yourself by Winston Churchill will be out in bookstores in December 2019.
Well, see, if you're an Asian male with a white female, then they'd be okay with it. Well,
yes.
Well, you'd have to align with them politically, though, 100%. If you're like, you're like to the right of Bernie Sanders, then they'd hate you.
Sure. I wanted to say this for so long.
Yeah.
But the Hapas community and also the Asian identity community have this idea that me, I don't know about you, but me in particular, would hate to see an Asian guy with a white girl. And they have absolutely no idea how happy I am every time I see that, because it gets these assholes off my back. I love it. I celebrate it. It's fantastic. Please go do it more.
Yeah.
So you guys stop hating me so much. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's always something good to see, because it just shows people have an open mind. And, you know, I enjoy seeing that too. Yeah.
See them Asian males and white females.
Now we have it on the record.
Yeah. See them Asian males and white females do so much fucking.
I will pay you.
Yeah.
So are we good on time right now, or
no, we have a couple more minutes? I just messaged.
Yeah, about 10-15 minutes we can pull.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do one more question. Should I ask that one or something else?
Whichever, no matter.
Okay. Yeah, you can ask that then. Okay.
All right. So I guess it kind of goes along with what we were just talking about, but about what do you think about different ethnic groups trying to preserve their race and looking down on race mixing? So, you know, basically our Hapa saying, well, I can't believe we're mixing with our Asian women, but.
Or like identitarians and things like that.
Okay. That's kind of a tough one for me, you know. Where I grew up, I've always been a minority. And South Africa is a big mix of different people. You've got the Bantu people who are like a whole bunch of different sort of black tribes and stuff who came down to South Africa because South Africa became prosperous after the settlers built the cities and stuff. They came down. Originally, you had like a bushmen running around and stuff. And you've got all the Malaysian settlers. We've got Lebanese community. We've got an Indian community. We've got like a massive Indian community. You know, Mahatma Gandhi actually is from South Africa. Well, he did a lot of things in South Africa. So you got Indians, you got black people, you got white people, you got all people all over the place. So you do get a lot of mixing. But of course, you do get your sort of divides between the races. It's very much divided. You get your Indian community, which doesn't mix with the black community, which doesn't mix with the tiny white minority community, you know. And there's all these different groups of people who frown on race mixing, big time, you know. So from my point of view, I've experienced a lot of people that are against it. I myself personally, I think it's down to preference. Like I personally, having lived in Africa my whole life growing up and stuff, I didn't find African women very attractive personally. So I don't think I would have married a black person. I've found some Indian women attractive and some, you know, Asian women attractive. I think it's down to personal preference. It's really up to the person. And it's not about preserving a race. It's about, you know, preserving life and being able to love who you want to love and being able to be attracted to who you want to be attracted to without having to fear everybody saying, screw you, you're not allowed to be attracted to an Indian person. You're not allowed to be attracted to a white person. You're not allowed to be attracted to this and that. That's bollocks. You should be able to be attracted to whoever the hell you want to be, you know, because at the end of the day, you're going to be putting your life and your effort into a relationship and getting married and having a child, things like that. So you should be able to choose whoever the hell you want. Right. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's freaking 2018. You shouldn't have to worry about this anymore. But honestly, there's a resurgence of this, and I never expected this, but I get a lot of it from the Chinese side, of course. Like, how dare you, you know, talking to my wife or me, how dare you ruin our Chinese race, you know, you're muddying the blood and stuff. But a lot of it came from the more of the extreme alt-right kind of like identitarians, like you said. And I was surprised to see this because a lot of them kind of found solace in the fact that I was like 100% European when I found the DNA test, right? And I'll say this, I'm not ashamed that I'm 100% European. That's exactly who I am. You know, I have no control over that, and I don't wish I was mixed with anything. It's just who I am. But at the same time, I have absolutely no issue, and if I might skew to the side of I'm kind of happy when I see different ethnicities marrying each other, just because I think that's just going to make the world a better place. I know it sounds really flowery and stuff, but not to push for that, right? You should be able to marry whoever you want, be with whoever you want. But I kind of like to see that because it kind of throws egg in the face of all this bullshit rhetoric about, you know, we need to keep our races pure because that's what our culture is, and that's absolute crap. Your culture is not your race. Your culture is what you believe in and your values, and that's up to you to raise your kids with those values. It's not about what they look like, right? So that's where I stand on that.
Yeah, I have to add to that at the same time that I do like the idea of races sticking together as well, because if you get rid of that, then you get rid of diversity. I mean, if everybody's just a mix of brown and cappuccino and whatever, you know, then we're just going to be one homogenous race, and it's going to be boring. I like the fact that you can look at someone from Scandinavia and they're tall and blonde with blue eyes, and you can look at someone, you know, from Africa and they're dark with dark eyes and black hair. I like the fact that we've got these differences all over the world, and there's nothing wrong with preserving those differences. You know what I mean?
But preserving those differences because of a racial motivation, I think, is
I'd just say through personal preference.
Sure.
So that's why I went with the whole personal preference thing. Is that I believe that if you find someone, you fall in love with them, and they're from a different race, you should never feel ashamed of it. You should embrace it. You know, you shouldn't be letting people that accuse you of being a race mixer or something stop you from doing that.
Right. I think the summation of this is you shouldn't control or try to push people in any direction whatsoever.
Yeah, and people should honestly just be free to choose who they want to be with. I mean, that's really,
as we are.
You know, that's just how it is. Yeah.
I guess that's going to be it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do want to say one last thing too. This is a baby metal shirt because you're a huge fan of baby.
Nice. That's really cool, dude. Cool.
Yeah.
That's sick. I got to get one.
Yeah.
Awesome. Because we went to see them live
a couple of months ago.
Yeah, so it was pretty good show.
Did you put your kitsune on?
Yeah. Didn't they? I think
they played kitsune.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I was so short though, I could barely see the concert.
I had to lift her up.
He had to lift me up because like.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks, guys.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks so much for talking with us.
You're welcome.
We'll have to do this
again.
Good
to have your insight.
No problems. Keep it up with the channel. You guys are doing good stuff.
Oh, thanks. We'll do this again soon.
Cool.
You guys stay awesome, man.
All right. Stay awesome. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.